Hello, my name is Diane, and today I want to talk about some of my reading plans for March. I didn't quite finish everything I was hoping to read in February, so this month I made an even longer TBR because that's reasonable. I'm still trying to focus on finishing up the series that I've started reading previously. I don't have too many more to go, which I'm very excited about. It's gotten very overwhelming looking at my TBR and my current series and just seeing so many things I've started and haven't finished. So it's really nice to watch that list get smaller and smaller every month. So I'm keeping with that this month. I've got a few new things thrown in, also some new releases, some upcoming releases, but mostly it's finishing or continuing series. First up, I'm hoping to finish the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden. I still have both The Girl in the Tower and The Winter of the Witch. I really enjoyed The Bear and the Nightingale. I was pleasantly surprised with it. I really wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, so I'm really excited to see where Vastia's story continues and where her adventure takes her next. I know in the second book, The Girl in the Tower, she leaves her town and goes on much more of an adventure than she did in the first book. It sounds a little more dangerous. I know she'll be a little bit older, so I think that'll also open up some things for her. She's not just a little girl in her home anymore. She's, I think, still pretty young, but she's grown and entering the world in a less traditional way, trying to continue saving the people she cares about, seeing the spirits and all of this magic and danger, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing how this story plays out, where the second and third book take her, and how everything wraps up. Next up, I have A Feast for Crows by George R.R. Martin. This is the fourth book in A Song of Ice and Fire. I loved the first book, A Game of Thrones. The second book I liked, but it was just okay for me. I didn't like some of the main characters, some of the point of view characters. And then the third book really got me back into it. I found it was much more engaging. There were a lot more characters that I cared about. That's the trouble with multiple perspective books. I really enjoy them, but it's really tough when you don't like one of the characters, especially if they have a larger role as the perspective that you're seeing. So I'm not really sure how this fourth book's going to be, if it's going to be another I only care about half of the things going on and not quite as action-packed and engaging, or if it's just going to continue on and I'm going to love it like the first and the third book. But I am really enjoying the story overall. I really like most of the characters, and I'm very interested to see where this is all going. It's still a little bit all over the place. The characters are still just starting to come back together, at least some of them. So I just have no idea where the story's going, and I'm really excited to see what happens next. Next up, I'm hoping to finish The First Law by Joe Abercrombie with Before They Are Hanged and The Last Argument of Kings. I liked the first book. I'm not quite sold on this being as highly regarded as it seems to be in the fantasy world, but I'm thinking maybe that's because I've only read the first book. I enjoyed The Blade itself, but it very much feels like a setup book for the rest of the trilogy. Well, you kind of meet all of the characters and see how they come to be in a group together and what's going on, but it felt like it was just the beginning. It didn't feel like we had really gotten to the actual story yet. So I did enjoy the writing. I've read some of Joe Abercrombie's other books before and really enjoyed them. He seems to weave a very complicated web, so I think this will only get better as it goes. So while I didn't quite love the first book, I feel like it was just leading into whatever's going to happen in the second book. I'm sure there'll be some twists and turns along the way to get through the third book. So hopefully moving forward in the series, it'll feel more like things are actually happening and not just the pieces are coming into their places. Next up is Among Thieves by M.J. Kuhn. The story follows a main character named Raya, who has been on the run for 6 years, and while she's made quite the name for herself in the past year, she still is running from her past, and it's beginning to catch up with her. She ends up teaming up with a group of criminals who she doesn't exactly trust. Everyone within the group is pretty much out for themselves, herself included, so she needs to try and keep this group together and make their plan play out as she's hoping it will, to put an end to what she's running from, the people who are after her. This is the first book in a series. The second book is coming out this year, which is what caught my attention. It sounds very much like a story that would be up my alley, so hopefully I'll like this one, even though I will be starting another series, but I can't avoid them forever, I guess. Next up is The Lies of the Ajungo by Moses Osiotomi. This is the story of a character named Tutu who is about to turn 13, and he lives in the City of Lies, where when children turn 13, their tongues are cut out. And this is a deal that was made with the Ajungo Empire, where all of the citizens' tongues need to be cut out, and in exchange they receive water from the empire. Tutu is approaching his 13th birthday, but doesn't think his mother is going to make it that long, so he makes a deal. In exchange for his mother receiving water to keep her alive, he will venture out into the desert and try and find a different source of fresh water for his city to save everyone, and hopefully put an end to this deal. This comes out later this month. It is a novella, which I don't really read very much of. I tend to read a lot of longer books, so I am looking forward to reading more shorter things. I've only just recently started picking up shorter books, and I've been really enjoying them, so I think it'll be nice to have a book that is not hundreds and hundreds of pages. And the last book I want to talk about is The Sword Defiant by Gareth Hanrahan. The story follows Sir Elfric, who at one point in time himself and 9 companions defeated evil and saved everyone. And now, many years later, he is the keeper of the cursed sword called Spellbreaker, and he needs to get those 9 companions back together to face a new threat. However, some of those companions have turned to darkness. They're no longer quite the good guys, and he now has to deal with that as well. This book doesn't come out until May. It is the first book in a series, but I did receive an advance copy of it, and I'm really excited about it. It really sounds like the type of book that I typically love. Hopefully it will live up to my expectations for it. I'm trying not to get my hopes too high, but it sounds like it'll be really good. It sounds like a very interesting story, and I'm really excited about it, which is why I'm trying to get to it this month and not wait until closer to the release date. So those are all the books on my TBR that I want to talk about. I, of course, have some other nonfiction books that I own that I'd like to read this month. I have a few fantasy books from last month that I didn't get to, that if I get through all of my new TBR, I will hopefully also make time to finally finish those. I decided, instead of prioritizing the things from last month that I didn't get to, I was just gonna start on a whole new TBR and then put those in at the end as my if I have times. It may seem a little bit backwards, but for some reason it made the most sense to me when I was putting this list together. So hopefully I can get through this list without getting too overwhelmed, feeling like I'm falling behind, trying not to do that to myself. If I get through them, awesome. Hopefully I love them all, and if I don't, there's always next month. Let me know what book you're most excited to read this month. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time. Bye.